All right, fellas, we are 3 days away from the NFL draft, and Matt Miller of ESPN decided to bless us with a 7-round NFL mock draft. So we figured one last time, 2023 rookie mock draft with landing spots. We are going to do this super flex style. Maybe if we get done this one quickly, we can run a one quarterback one or something like that. But we are going to break down the landing spots of these players that Matt Miller has them going. Obviously, he works for ESPN. I'm sure he has some connected league sources. I'm going to have one gripe with one player that went undrafted, but nonetheless, should be a fun exercise. We'll go over the landing spots here in a second. Danny, what's up? We have the draft full, so we can get this thing rolling ASAP.
For sure. I'm about to share my screen in a second, but for the context that Corey's referring to, you guys will know a lot more based on tomorrow's video. But yeah, let me share my screen. Let's randomize this order. Take the branding real quick off the screen. Perfect. And good luck. KJ picks first, and we are ready to start. 2-minute clock just so we can talk about, some of the landing spots, some of the fits of some of these players. So 2 minutes on the clock here.
Yep. So you guys can see the first 3-round picks here. We'll show the day 3 picks there in a second. If you guys in the draft could kindly use up a decent amount of the clock just for our sake of being able to explain the picks. Obviously, Bijan went 101 as he always does. He went to the Los Angeles Chargers, which is one of the more juicy landing spots that he could go to. We'd imagine maybe Eckler gets traded on day 2 of the draft or something like that. In this type of scenario, you'd have to figure the Chargers are more likely to grant the trade request of Austin Eckler if they land the best running back to come out of the draft since 2018. We also have, Bryce goes 1 overall to the Carolina Panthers. CJ Stroud goes 4th overall to the Indianapolis Colts. Anthony Richardson 7th overall to the Las Vegas Raiders. Will Levis slides down a little bit, 11th overall to the Tennessee Titans. JSN 12th overall, wide receiver 1 off the board to the Texans. Kincaid, you guys can see all the landing spots there. We'll talk about them as they come up. So, yeah, Jake, if you want to make your pick now, you can go ahead. Thanks for letting me get that spiel off.
Appreciate that.
I'm imagining, again, it's a super flex draft. I'm sure he's going to go quarterback. We got a lot of fellas in here. Excellent. Brock's on his lunch break. You love to see it. Been waiting for it. LFG. Hey, how's it going? What's going on? Debbie draft was a ton of fun. Yeah, I have two picks left, but I walked away with Emeka Egbuka, Malik Neighbors, Jatavion Sanders, and KJ Jefferson. So no complaints there. Looks like the 102 off the board is, in fact, Bryce Young, who went 1st overall to the Carolina Panthers. Probably stone cold lock at this point in time. I believe it's like minus 2,000 the last time I checked. So looks like it's guaranteed going to be 1st overall Bryce Young to the Panthers.
Yeah, for sure. Bryce Young to the Panthers obviously is the lock of basically the century at this point. Everything we're hearing from Carolina's camp is going to be the 101 there. After that, though, we do see some interesting shuffle, like you kind of mentioned with the quarterbacks. Only 3 going in the top 10, 2 going in the top 5, which is Bryce Young, CJ Stroud to the Indianapolis Colts. But the landing spots in particular of the other 2 are pretty interesting. Raiders have been heavily linked to Anthony Richardson. He goes 7th here. And Tennessee has been rumored with every single quarterback in the draft, it seems like. So it's going to be interesting to see how they file off the board here, specifically in that top 8. When it comes to Levis as well.
Yeah, for me, I think where I would be going with this pick is probably still with CJ Stroud. The Raiders landing spot's good. I would say it's a good one for Anthony Richardson because he has the opportunity then to sit behind Jimmy Garoppolo probably for a year. The way his contract is structured, that you'd probably get 1 full year out of Jimmy Garoppolo. But the thing I don't love about this mock draft is that I personally do not think the Raiders will take a quarterback because Josh McDaniels on the hot seat after last season. He's not going to want to take a quarterback that can't help him this year. I would imagine if the board fell the way that it did, that he would go with an edge rusher, a defensive tackle, a corner, somebody that can help his defense, which was one of the worst in the NFL last year, actually get off the field and help the offense out a little bit because the Raiders offense was good last year. They had Jacobs, who was leading rusher in the NFL, Devontae Adams, one of the best receivers. If Jimmy Garoppolo can play at least as good as Derek Carr, if not maybe a little bit more winning football than Derek Carr, then they can win some games if they get the defense fixed. So for me, I personally don't think that the Raiders will take a quarterback, but it's a good landing spot for him to be able to sit and wait, but I would still take Stroud going to Indianapolis at 4 there. So chalk to start it off here.
Yep.
We'll see where Beasley goes. Again, I'd personally go with just wide receiver 1 off the board, but we do actually see an interesting shakeup potentially at wide receiver because we had Jordan Addison and JSN closely ranked. Obviously, Jordan Addison going 31st to the Chiefs is a pretty big deal for his landing spot and honestly would vault him ahead of JSN for me. in a rookie draft because they're so close for me already. Yeah, the 12th overall draft capital is awesome for Houston, but Houston did not select a quarterback in this draft. And you're probably not getting, the greatest year one type of production out of a guy like JSN in Houston. Even though we play long-term with Dynasty and we want to trust the talent, these guys are close enough that just give me Mahomes as number one receiver.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, and Jordan Addison, like his strengths would fit so well in that Chiefs offense. They've needed, that reliable outside playmaker for a while. They brought Juju in last year. They brought MVS to stretch the field, but they haven't had a consistent, target munching outside wide receiver in quite a while. Juju, obviously, of course, playing more of that slot role last year. So it's going to be interesting because, I mean, we envisioned the role that, Addison would play here. Sky Moore could have potentially developed into, but if they're taking Jordan Addison 31st overall, that would be pretty much the death sentence to Sky Moore's fantasy outlook.
Yeah, and I'm begging Danny to stop saying target munching because I've heard him say it a couple times now, and I hate it. J Full LMAO. Oh yeah, these guys are talking about the Debbie draft here. Gavin, feel free to leave some draft hot takes, man. We're a week, less than a week away from the draft. Let's hear some spice here. He thinks that Anthony Richardson falls out of the first round, which, I mean, crazier things have happened. Malik Willis was not expected to fall out of the first round last year, and he did. I personally think the NFL will learn from their mistakes this year with Anthony Richardson and take him in the top 10 at the very least, maybe not the top 3, top 5 like we thought. I personally think that his floor is Seattle at 5, but it's possible that he slides down a little bit. Maybe Atlanta takes a shot on him, maybe Tennessee, maybe, another team trades up ahead of some of those teams in like the 7 to 9 range. So I personally don't agree with this take, but I don't think it's outrageous because we saw Malik Willis fall to the 3rd round last year.
Yep, absolutely. Dream landing spot for A-Rich would be Tampa. That'd be fucking fun to watch. I'm not gonna lie. You would love that. You would love that.
I would. Yeah, Danny, you are on the clock right now, by the way, at 108.
And speaking of Tampa Bay, that's where I'm leaning here. Jahmyr Gibbs goes 50th overall to your Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Odd fit. I'm not gonna lie. I talked about it with you pre live stream, but the one thing that you can bank on for Rachaad White is his receiving prowess, and on a rebuilding team, taking a running back that is the best receiver in this entire class from the running back position. Kind of an odd fit there, but regardless, Gibbs, very, very good prospect profile. The only real concern would be his size and potentially, can he be a 340 touch per year type of running back? I don't see that, but could he be, a 250 to 280 touch running back with 100 plus targets? Absolutely. And getting that type of upside here at the 108, this is a guy I'd be comfortable taking that 105 to 107 range.
I agree with the fantasy outlook. I personally would fucking hate this as a Buccaneers fan because not only do we not have a guy who can run on early downs because Rachaad White's not that good of an early down running back. Gibbs is a little too small to be a guy that carries a huge workload on the ground. You got 2 guys that are a similar skill set. To me, it would make way more sense if you go running back to take Zach Charbonnet, who can carry the early down workload. And honestly, I would not spend a top 2 round pick on a running back in this class unless somehow Bijan fell to 19. Because you can get Roschon in the 3rd round. You can get Dwayne McBride in round 4. You can get, Chase Brown in round 4. I personally would rather do that if I was the Bucs. We also saw Levis go off the board 1-7 there. Goes 11th overall to the Tennessee Titans. There's been rumors that Ryan Tannehill could be on the move on draft night. Wouldn't shock me. And I think Levis going there would probably open up the door for Tannehill to be moved on day 2, maybe even day 3. To a team like Atlanta, maybe Tampa, maybe Houston. If they don't get a quarterback, somebody like that would make some sense. QJ, where did he end up going in this draft? He
Buffalo Bills, 27th.
27th to the Bills. Yeah, I think this is probably a guy that would see his value increase, maybe even above a guy like Gibbs if he went to the Buffalo Bills. I don't think I would take him quite that high, but I do think it would be possible. And then Zach Charbonnet, I believe, fell to round 3 to the Arizona Cardinals there at the top of the round. Again, people will go the lazy comparison. Oh, he's going to just replace James Conner. I think he's a much better player than James Conner, but I do like the landing spot there. So I'm on the board here at the 111. To me, it would be very clearly between 2 players. It would be Michael Mayer, who went 26th overall to the Dallas Cowboys. It would also be Zay Flowers, who went 22nd overall to the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm just going to scan the board here to see where the running backs went. I mean, Roschon going to the Dallas Cowboys is also very, very interesting because he could basically fill the exact role that Zeke vacates, right? You got a younger version of a guy who can play on all 3 downs, pass protect, that kind of stuff. I think you would like this as a Cowboys fan for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I think I'm going to take Mayer. Personally, I don't love again, we're not going to cast the same shadow on the Baltimore Ravens that we've been doing with it, which is like the Greg Roman offense. I think they'd be a lot more wide open with Todd Monken, but I think, slightly prefer Michael Mayer going to, in my opinion, his best possible landing spot with the Dallas Cowboys. We're penciling this guy in my opinion, for a top 5 dynasty tight end right off the jump. I would legitimately have no argument with somebody saying that he might be a top 5 tight end right from jump, 26th overall. There's a debate. If you're 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round of a startup draft, if you're rebuilding, would you take him over, Kittle, Kelsey, Goddard, some of those guys that are, 28 plus years old? I think Mayer has a real conversation there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was actually asked in the chat by Rob here, Kincaid to the Packers or Mayer to the Cowboys, a better landing spot? Pretty simple to me. I mean, with the Cowboys, you got that elite franchise quarterback with Dak Prescott. You have realistically that number 1 weapon, but no long-term, set it and forget it type of, second weapon in that offense. So getting Michael Mayer here, he would insulate him right off the bat as a member of the Cowboys. He's going to get efficient looks in the red zone. This is going to be a team that's going to score 28 plus points per game this next year. And long term, like I kind of mentioned, if Brandon Cooks, starts declining, if Michael Gallup gets moved on, this could be realistically the number 2 weapon, 100 plus target type of weapon, and a really good offense.
Yeah, and I forgot to mention, if you guys want to open the whole mock, it's available in the link in the description. Matt Miller has it there. So if you're just completely relying on us to put it on the screen, the link is down there. You can scroll through if need be. We also have a couple guys talking here about the Bills need to go offense and, the O-line and that kind of stuff. Gavin asked an interesting question here. He says, who's your guys' RB4? I really like Roschon. So Roschon is currently my RB5. Tank Bigsby is my RB4, but those guys are really in the same range. And as we talked about in the running back rankings video, anybody with, day 2 draft capital has a chance to be RB4 from the RB4 to 13 range in our rankings right now.
Absolutely agree. I also wanted to address this. We don't need a round 1 tight end, right? So I've talked about this for a while. Like I don't think we need a tight end in the first round because again, I don't mind taking a Zach Kuntz type in the 3rd round or a field stretching tight end, seam busting tight end in the 3rd round to kind of play that, complementary role to this core. But I mean, this is a team that doesn't have a ton of weaknesses on the roster. Mayer's going to be highly regarded in NFL circles. So I understand if they were to go that route. I think Mayer, Kincaid, and Washington would be the 3 that they would look at in round 1. But I do agree with you. If we don't take a tight end in the first round, it doesn't mean, oh my God, I'm panicking, we don't have a tight end. Because I do think, like you said, Ferguson and Hendershot plus maybe one day 2 or day 3 guy could suffice. But regardless, in fantasy perspective, if Mayer goes to the Cowboys, this is a legit, like Corey mentioned, top 5 level dynasty tight end potentially.
I think I know your answer to this question, but the battle of undervalued positions, if Bijan and Mayer are both on the board, you'd rather take Bijan, right?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Yeah. So we got some picks off the board here. Hendon Hooker goes off the board at the 2-1 because he went in the first round, 23rd overall to the Minnesota Vikings. And I think maybe you could have probably made the argument as high as where I took Mayer that he could have gone off the board. If he gets first round draft capital, again, I'm not a Hendon Hooker believer, but we know first round quarterbacks generally have a path to start at some point in time. Hendon Hooker can run a little bit. Basically, I would be out on him. I would want my league mates to draft him, but I do think he should go near the 1-2 turn area if he were to get first round draft capital. Dalton Kincaid, like we said, 15th overall to the Packers. Then we see Tank Bigsby, who we were just talking about, go off the board here. Did he go? I think he went in the 4th round. So I got to pull up the 4th round stuff here. He went off the board to the Denver Broncos there in the 4th round. So we got to presume that he would probably swap in for Javonte Williams, at least to start this year until Javonte can get back on his feet. But there's still plenty of guys available on the board right now that went with day 2 draft capital that I definitely would have taken over Tank Bigsby.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of those running backs, we're looking at it right now. Roschon Johnson, Tajay Spears.
A-Chain gets his literal 99th percentile landing spot, which is going to the Miami Dolphins, because I think he is a perfect fit for their offense.
Yep, no, I agree with you there. Just looking at some of these comments right here. Don't have ESPN Plus. I just accessed it for free. I just searched
I did as well. Maybe it's a Canadian thing. I'm no idea, but J-Dog asked, how much stock are we putting into the S2 test?
Don't even know.
I think I'm putting stock into it for sure. Yeah. I'm not going to outright, because I had Stroud QB2, and I'm not going to take, Richardson or Levis over Stroud knowing that they scored better on the test. to me, it confirms what I knew about Bryce Young already, which is probably the person I'm putting the most stock into for the S2 test, is that Bryce Young, to overcome his size, needs to be an elite processor, and he clearly is. So he's the guy that I really put the stock into from the S2 test. Stroud, yeah, I wish he would have scored better in it, but I didn't see really anything on film to indicate that he wasn't a good processor. So for me, I'm probably just going to like be cautiously optimistic about him. It's a little bit more of a red flag than I thought it would be, but I'm not, shooting him down the rankings like potentially the NFL is doing.
And not to mention, I mean, we're doing this off the basis of a rumor that he scored low. Like, is it verified? Is it confirmed? Like,
I mean, we have like legit sources that have confirmed it, but we don't even know where they're getting their information. So yeah, like I think if this was just like widely available information, then we would have like a database of like where everybody scored. And that's not really what's happened so far. And until that happens, I can't really trust anything that I hear about these S2 scores. So we have a couple picks came off the board here. We had Josh Downs, who went at the 2-4. He came off the board in his classic top 40 area, 37th overall to the Seahawks. Long-term Tyler Lockett replacement. You love to see that. Then we have Marvin Mims, who went off the board in the early third round portion to the New Orleans Saints, which I think good landing spot for him. He's kind of like the new, Deontay Hardy, but like better kind of guy there. And then Devon Achane, like I said, 2-6. He came off the board going to the Miami Dolphins in the second round. I'm not even a huge Devon Achane fan, and I think he probably should have gone off the board before 2-6.
Yeah, no, I agree. He probably could have been a 1-2 turn in this room. Regardless, so if we're looking at this mock as a whole, I mean, it is extremely fantasy friendly compared to some of the mocks that we've seen being thrown around. Like Hendon Hooker is going to go higher now because of the first round capital. All these day 2 running backs going off the board.
Wide receiver Cedric Tillman just came off the board here at 2-7, who went 39th to the Panthers. There's nobody in Carolina long-term. It's Thielen, who's old. It's Chark, who's on a 1-year deal. It's Terrace Marshall, who has 1 year left on his rookie contract. Cedric Tillman, if he hits, could become a long-term, productive guy for Bryce Young.
Yeah, no, 100%. And with that being said, speaking of picks, I would run up to the podium if I was at the 208. And in this scenario, 90th overall, Roschon to the Cowboys was on the board. I love Tony Pollard. I think he's a very, very good running back. But this guy's on the franchise tag, coming off a fractured leg. I believe it was a fibula or tibia. It was one of those two. Either way, a broken leg that he's coming off of as a 25-year-old running back. Enter Roschon Johnson. You could pretty much, like you said, plug him into the Ezekiel Elliott role. And if Tony Pollard for the first couple weeks of the year is still getting back after missing some training camp with the injury, then Roschon Johnson can realistically, at least for the early portion, if Pollard's not getting his full workload, be a fantasy running back too right off the bat. Not to mention the long-term implications if the Cowboys were to move off of Tony Pollard after the year.
Yeah, exactly. I love that landing spot for Roschon. I think he probably should have been off the board near where Kincaid went there at the 2-3 turn, or the 1-2 turn. Sorry. We see Tajay Spears go off the board. I believe he also went top 3 round here. He went off the board 92nd overall to the Bengals. I would imagine the Bengals would probably make some other additions, either keeping Joe Mixon or, maybe next year's draft. I wouldn't just like look at this and be like Tajay Spears, the starting running back for the Cincinnati Bengals for the next 5 years. Like I would assume they would add some pieces, but definitely a great landing spot for him nonetheless. Tanner McKee actually comes off the board here. Did he go in the first 3 rounds of this draft?
Round 5.
He went round 5. Who was he backing up?
Los Angeles.
Okay, so I mean, maybe you're a Tanner McKee guy. I probably wouldn't have reached that far on him, but I'm on the board here. There's a couple receivers that I think get good draft capital. I mean, Jonathan Mingo, as I've been saying, is a Tennessee Titan. He's going to go to Tennessee at 41 overall because he's the best blocking receiver I've probably ever seen. And he wore number 1 and played at Ole Miss just like A.J. Brown. So it's a very good chance that if he's on the board at 41 for Tennessee, they would actually pick him. I like the landing spot for Hyatt. I'm not huge on Hyatt, but 35th to the Colts. You get to be the field stretcher there for C.J. Stroud, a deep, accurate quarterback. Really like that pick for him. I also like, I'm probably not going to go with a 4th round running back here with Kendre Miller, but I like that he went to Chicago at the top of the 4th round in this draft. Not a lot of, running back touches competition there. I think I'm probably going to settle here for, I like Jaden Reed, but I don't think I can take him like barely getting day 2 draft capital over a guy like Jalen Hyatt. So I'm going to go with Jalen Hyatt, who went to the Indianapolis Colts here.
Yeah, I don't mind that as well. If he were to go 35th overall to the Colts, he's probably going higher. So that's a good, hedge, for example. Like, it doesn't matter if you're not a Hyatt fan. realistically, if he's getting that type of draft capital in most rooms, he's going at that 201 to 205 type of range. So I think that was a good fit. We got a super chat here from Bobcat. Appreciate that a ton. He says, "What is the worst punishment you've seen that the last place finisher had to endure?"
Jeez.
My friend had to get pepper sprayed. Jesus, they were not letting him off the hook, eh?
So I can tell you what our last place punishments were the last 2 years. The guy that lost this year, and he hasn't done this yet because we're doing it closer to next season. He has to, like, the local mall near my house, he has to gritty around it, like through the mall, like the entire mall. So that's the punishment that he's doing. And then 2 years ago, the punishment was that he had to get pelted by eggs.
The
So
worst
yeah, those are the punishments I've seen. I've seen, like, I mean, everybody does like the blow up doll, the like I suck at fantasy football thing, or like,
Yeah. Well, the one that happened in one of my leagues is somebody had to go to the club in a dress.
yeah, that one's interesting too. So we see, what do we see? Kendre went off the board here at 212. Like I said, he went 4th round, top of the 4th round to the Chicago Bears. Pretty good landing spot for him. I mean, you get the early down work there, pretty much Montgomery-esque, like the type of skill set that he has. Maybe just walks right into Montgomery's role. Jonathan Mingo, like I said, 41st overall draft capital. We're hearing some real buzz about Jonathan Mingo being the apple of a lot of NFL teams' eye. I'm not buying that he's the next AJ Brown, but I am buying the fact that he has an interesting skill set and he's a good athlete, and maybe some teams like him. Production stinks, but if he goes 41st overall, he needs to be off the board probably around the 2-3 turn at the latest.
Yep. I don't understand why Darnell Washington is getting more love. Good chances. I honestly really like him in this range. You guys will see on tomorrow's video, but I'm high on him. He is my 3rd ranked tight end. He's still a top 6 tight end for Corey as well. Honestly, I just think the reason why is from a receiving profile standpoint. It's pretty clear that Mayer and Kincaid are going to project more into, number 2 type of weapons in their offenses. Whereas like afterwards, then he's well within the range of upside versus, safety with a guy like Laporta or Kraft. So he just kind of in a mumble or a jumble of fantasy prospects at the tight end position between mostly, like we kind of said, like tight end 2 to tight end 3 to tight end 7.
Yeah, agreed. I'm a little lower on Washington, but I do think he still has quite a good ceiling. Ed actually asked, who has more fantasy championships, Danny or Bush? I can't speak to like my older ones because I think I've gotten a lot better as a fantasy player.
It's tough because I don't know how many leagues I've been in. Like
I would say in the last 3 years, I won my home league twice. Our listener league. Did I win it twice, or how many times did I win our listener league? I won our listener league once.
The redraft?
What's up?
The redraft one?
Yeah. I won our listener redraft league, the
2020?
2020. Yeah, the year I beat Kamara somehow, the 6 touchdown game.
Right.
And then I also won 2 other dynasty leagues in that period of time. And I'm only in I think in 2020 I was in 4 or 5 leagues. 2021 was also 4 or 5, maybe 6 leagues. Last year I was in 6 leagues. So I'm hitting like 30%. 40%, but I won the league that I care most about, my home league. I've won 2 of the last 3 years. So that's the one I care the most about, redraft wise. So, and also the other thing too is like in Dynasty, me and you have been punting a lot of our team.
Well,
so
that's why it's hard
coming up for a lot of those teams because we went into the draft and started with like a more of a productive struggle type of build.
Well, that's why it's hard to analyze that because like majority of my teams are dynasty retanking type of teams, and some of them are actually ready to compete this upcoming year. Like I think I'm going to be probably a heavy favorite in the FSC Listener Dynasty League, a couple other leagues as well that I'm transitioning into a pretty good favorite. In terms of redrafts specifically, though, I want to say the numbers 3. Won my home league a couple years ago. Won another one-off type of league last year. This year, oddly enough, I shared a championship in the league because of the week, DeMar Hamlin. I'm not going to delve into that, but basically I shared a championship in that league. But this year in particular might have been my worst luck of fantasy in so long.
Mine as well.
I had 6 redraft leagues. 4 of them, I was the number 1 or 2 seed. All 6 of them, I made the playoffs. Out of the 4 teams that got the bye week, none of them advanced to the championship because that was the week that your Devontae Smiths, your George Kittles, like your more like profiled 5-6 seed type of team players all went off that week, the week that I was playing them after the bye. The one team that made the final and, like I said, shared the championship was, I think, a 5 or a 6 seed. It makes no sense.
I feel like that's the sentiment in a lot of leagues. Like, I mean, you saw my Tone Setters team, right? I literally went 13-1 and had 300 more points for than everybody else. And I got smoked in the first round of the playoffs after the bye week by the CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott stack because Ramondre Stevenson, Saquon Barkley, and Christian McCaffrey all shit the bed.
Hey, Bush, thanks for Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, I know. So what Danny's referring to in that league, I had Jalen Hurts on my team and he was injured, obviously, at the end of this season. So I traded Danny basically some combination of Jalen Hurts and Dallas Goedert for Justin Fields, George Kittle, and I believe like a 3rd round pick or something like that, because I was trying to win the championship. I was 13-1. Like, I need to go for the win. And Jalen Hurts not playing was definitely going to impact my chances of winning. And obviously not winning really hurts me now because I lost value on that trade. But I kind of had to go for it. I was kind of in a rough spot there. QB looks like he will slip to 105. What kind of value would it take to move up from the 109?
What QB?
I think he just means like the quarterbacks in his draft.
Maybe see, like, what do you think would be an acceptable deal in most leagues? Like, would you try to?
I would, given that you're going after a quarterback, I think the best way to get a deal done from a spot like the 109 is to give somebody a young, fun upside receiver. So, like, if you could go 109 and Jahan Dotson to get up to 105, I think that would be interesting. Or not George Kittle, George Pickens, or somebody like that. That would be kind of interesting for me. So that'd be like the type of deal that I would look for. As far as like pick value is concerned, I'd probably only be willing to give like 109 and 2 2s. I probably would not give a first to go from 109 to 105.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Tillman and Hyatt over Kendry is wild. It's just the
4th round capital running back for top 40 pick wide receivers is understandable in my opinion.
I agree. Worst punishment I've seen was league winner had his name tattooed tramp stamp style on the last place. Oh my God. Oh,
so funny story about that. Actually, when I won the 2nd time in our home league before the season started, one of the guys in the league said, if Bush wins again, I'll get a Bush tattooed on my ass. And I won again, which is funny. So he didn't actually do it. I didn't.
But you won this year?
Hilarious. No, this was 2 years ago. After I won the first time, the guy said, if Bush wins again, I'll get Bush tattooed on my ass.
JSN Solo Dolo. I think that speaks to how he'll get buried in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, agreed.
105. Oh, one quarterback league. So let me think. What would that be?
Taking Metcalf there.
Yeah, I probably am too, but let me just map it out, right? So that's going to be Bijan, JSN, Jordan.
You're looking probably at QJ or Jahmyr Gibbs.
I mean, yeah.
202 is not going to be that great of an asset, so I'll take DK there.
Yeah, I probably agree. That's pretty close though. That's a pretty good favor.
Let me recap some of the picks that we got here. I want to make sure.
Real quick, I'm just going to respond to Brock. Danny, you could be the favorite in my league if you take that off. Yeah, we'll see about that post NFL draft. Looks like a seller's market right now, so you're going to have to take what you get. I'm kidding.
Facts. Okay, so we had some picks rip off the board here. So the last ones we talked about. Israel Abanikanda, he went off the board in the 4th round to the Washington Commanders. He goes off the board at the 3-2. Not a bad landing spot for him. Darnell Washington, as we talked about, he went off the board here. What was it, in the 2nd round? Yeah, 2nd round to the Jacksonville Jags. I think that's a good landing spot. First year in the system, you play in line, and then when maybe Ingram moves on, you can move to a bigger role. He needs some time to develop, so that makes some sense. Sean Tucker went off the board. By the way, Sean Tucker is having his pro day today. We haven't gotten official word of like what he ran in the 40, but I saw that he jumped like 38 inches, weighed 5'9", and threw up like 28 reps at 225. So that's definitely interesting. We'll see what he runs. Where did Tucker actually go here? I can't actually see his name.
Tucker went round 6 to the Houston Texans.
Round 6 to the Texans? I mean, that's a good landing spot for him. He got an opportunity to compete for some touches there. Zach Evans, did he go off the board in the 4th round? Probably, right? Zach Evans went to the Cleveland Browns. Not all that interested in that situation. You got, Nick Chubb there eating up most of the touches. Jaden Reed also goes to the Cleveland Browns, but in the 3rd round.
Oh, God. Is he just going to be fucking this year's David Bell?
I hope not, because he's stuck. I mean, presumably he'd be stuck behind Cooper, DPJ, and Elijah Moore in 3 wide receiver sets. So I don't love that.
I know. I was just messing around.
Well, also, my wide receiver 6 seems to be cursed every single year, and that is, in fact, Jaden Reed. So, Rashee Rice, where did he go? He went off 3rd round to the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, he'd go along with Allen Robinson, 2 guys that can't separate. Tucker Kraft goes off the board. I love Tucker Kraft, by the way. Detroit Lions, 81st overall. Love to see that. Tyler Scott went off the board, 45th to the Green Bay Packers. I see all the big name analysts mocking him high. I personally don't fucking see it, but I could see him going high in the draft. He's got speed. Kayshon Boutte, just with the most annoying landing spot ever, goes off the board to the Kansas City Chiefs in the 6th round. I think he would go higher than this, just knowing what people do in fantasy football. So I have 15 seconds here remaining on the clock. I just want to make my pick here before I lose some time. I like Trey Palmer, so I'm actually going to go with him. He went off the board. Nice. Where is he? Trey Palmer goes off the board to the Atlanta Falcons in the 3rd round. He graded as like my wide receiver 11, just behind a guy like Jonathan Mingo. So I like Trey Palmer going 3rd round draft capital to the Atlanta Falcons. Although there is some running backs that are still interesting that are on the board here.
I dig that. By the way, with Kayshon Boutte, if he landed on the Chiefs in the 5th round, I already know there's going to be some fucking analyst out there that'd be like, oh, bold prediction. Kayshon Boutte outproduces Jordan Addison, both drafted by the Chiefs.
That would be so irritating. Dude, you know what would happen. It's the Brian Edwards, Henry Ruggs situation all over again, or the Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson situation that people were talking about last year.
For sure. By the way, Gavin, so we're actually doing a Devy startup right now. So we'll probably, live stream or a video whenever, just going over the Devy draft, just to kind of give you guys insight to what the class is looking like. Not to mention, you did a whole video on the 2024 top 20, I believe, right?
Yeah. So on Dynasty Football Flock on Mason's channel, we talked about the top 20 picks right now in rookie drafts for me. And the running backs that I talked about in that video were Raheem Sanders from Arkansas, Rocket Sanders, big guy, runs fast. Yeah. Love to see that. Good receiving profile. Travion Henderson, obviously great freshman season. Hopefully he can bounce back after the injury. Then we also have, sorry, who did you say?
Donovan Edwards.
Yeah, Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum, both Michigan running backs, are interesting. And then the other guy, who am I forgetting? The third guy.
Will Shipley?
No, the Travion Henderson, Raheem Sanders, and Braylon Allen from Wisconsin. I'm a little bit lower on him because he's not like the fastest guy in the world, but he's big. He's been productive early on in his career. I like Trey Benson, also from Florida State, who Danny sniped me on in the Devy draft. Hate to see that, but I got KJ Jefferson, so that's fine. But yeah, those are some names in the 2024 class. There's still some other guys that could pop out of the woodwork. We usually see that at running back, especially. So definitely
Devin Neal. Devin Neal's pretty interesting.
Yeah, Devin Neal's interesting. There's also some guys. There's another guy that I'm forgetting. I can't remember his name. But yeah, Shipley, like you mentioned, from Clemson, good pass catching profile. Corum, Donovan Edwards. Yep. Thanks, G's.
Anytime.
Gibbs and Charbonnet falls to me at 108, 109. I mean, I would say Gibbs falling to 108 would definitely be a big stretch.
Beautiful.
Most of the time. If he goes to shit landing spot, it's definitely possible. But Charbonnet should be there for you there at 109. Been talking up Tucker Kraft. Yeah, he is. So I've graded most of the tight ends in this class now. And for those, I haven't actually announced this yet. For those of you guys that want all my grades, want all the player cards, they will be launching as like a PDF draft guide on flockfantasy.com. I'm hoping to get everything done before the Leafs game tonight, but if I don't get it done before the Leaf game, I'm going to do it first thing tomorrow morning, and it'll be up over there. So if you guys are interested in that, of course, flockfantasy.com, use the promo code FSE. You'll get 30% off any of the packages, but you can also just do a 2-day free trial, see all of our rankings, see everything that we have to offer there, including the draft guide that I'm launching today or tomorrow. And you'll be able to see everything there. You can see why I have this running back here. What games did I watch? What's their strengths and weaknesses? What's, their athletic testing should be
player comps
as well. Their size, player comps, all that kind of stuff will be in that draft guide. I graded, I think I only graded 5 quarterbacks, but I did watch and do a lot of the quarterbacks for BDG's draft guide. So I'll talk about sleepers. I'll talk about guys that could be late round. Who's the next Brock Purdy kind of stuff. Running backs, I graded like 15 guys. Wide receivers, I graded like 14 guys. Tight ends, I've graded 7 of them. So those guys will all be in that draft guide along with my historical grades database. So you can see how they all graded in relation to the 2021 and 2022 class as well. So that will be available later today, hopefully, or tomorrow at the very latest on the new site.
Sorry, I just read Brock's comment. I got sniped on DTR. We're in the 4th round.
Classic. Is a 3rd round pick worth taking IRL? Yeah, I mean, 310 Kayshon Boutte is fine for sure. But I bet you if he went to the Kansas City Chiefs, he would still be a 2nd round rookie pick for most people.
NBA Finals predictions. I got Celtics over Warriors in 6. It's so tricky for me. So first of all, in terms of the East, it's pretty simple to me. As much as I like the Sixers, I think the winner of one of the Celtics or the Bucks, pending what the Bucks do tonight, is going to win the champion or is going to win the overall championship, right? The Bucks, if they lose tonight versus the Heat, is going to be very interesting because then they'll be down 3-1. If they go 2-2, I think they win the series, no problem. And I think they're probably going to be my team I pick out of the East. But if they lose tonight, like you mentioned, I would pick the Celtics. In terms of the West, I'm a homer, no doubt about it. But I
All right,
do
wrap
think
up
that
the NBA talk here.
I was just gonna say I do think the winner of Warriors versus Lakers represent the West. And I got my Lakers winning that. I think the Lakers win in 7 in that series.
Who's shocked? Who's shocked that Danny went with the homer pick? Not me.
That series is a toss-up, man. That's going to be a fucking must-watch basketball series, man. I'll tell you that right now, especially the way both teams have been playing.
All right, so you're on the clock. Let me recap the picks that we've got here. So Luke Musgrave, I believe, decent value here in the 3rd round. He went off the board. Can you take that off the screen so we can see the rest of the board there?
Right.
Luke Musgrave has he went 60th overall to the comment was what I was referring to. He went off the board 60th overall to the Cincinnati Bengals. So great value there at the 4-1. We also had Xavier Hutchinson probably went off the board in the day 3 area. Yeah, he went off the board to the Vikings. So interesting landing spot there at the top of the 4th round. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, as we talked about there, he went 4th round to the Seattle Seahawks. That is definitely a great landing spot for him because he could develop behind Geno Smith. Sam Laporta, probably a huge value again, goes off the board 63rd to the Chiefs. We got him at the 4-4. Jesus, man. He probably should have been a early 3rd round pick. I actually should have taken him with my last pick instead of Trey Palmer. I'm throwing. This is what happens while you're streaming when you're trying to do these drafts instead of actually being on the clock. Chase Brown, 5th round to I think that was supposed to be the New York Giants, Danny. You put in Detroit Lions there, but I think he was backing up Saquon Barkley for the New York Giants. Chase Brown, I believe.
Is that where he went? Wait.
Yeah, it says Detroit Lions on the dock there, but I believe he went to the was it Detroit or was it?
I don't remember. I
could be wrong. I thought when I read the mock it said New York Giants, but I think you might actually be right. I think it was Detroit Lions. Now that I might be wrong there. So Detroit Lions, either way, good landing spot for him. Jaron Hall actually went 3rd round, top of the 3rd round to the Houston Texans. It is Lions. Okay, so never mind. I'm just wrong. Jaron Hall, 3rd round to the Texans. Gross landing spot, kind of Davis.
Oh, I'm on the clock.
Yeah, you are on the clock here. And you got like 10 seconds left.
Fuck. I don't know. Eric Gray goes to the Bills. Sure.
Yeah, that's a good landing spot there. Dwayne McBride also came off the board shortly here. Where did he end up going? He went off the board to the Ravens in the 4th round. Very Gus Edwards-like type of guy for a Gus Edwards type runner. Eric Gray, like you said, 4th round or 5th round, to the Buffalo Bills. I'm on the board pretty close here. Do we have any day 2 guys left on the board?
No.
Let me just look.
Maybe a wide receiver.
Tank Dell been taken yet?
Yeah, he's available. You can take him.
Yeah, so Tank Dell is still on the board. We also have Brenton Strange, I believe, still on the board. Evan Hall went off the board. Will Mallory. Not a lot of talent left on the board from day 2. Is there anybody that I like on the board right now?
Jake Bobo?
There's nobody that I'm excited of drafting. I didn't get the entire 7th round on here, but honestly, it's a bunch of guys you guys have never heard of, including guys that I've never heard of too. So I didn't even bother putting them on here because I didn't think anybody would care. Dontavian Wicks to the Jags at the end of the 4th round is kind of interesting there. I kind of liked Dontavian Wicks. I wrote him up for BDG's draft guide. He had like a really tumultuous season because a bunch of people at Virginia got shot and he was injured in that shooting. Dontavian Wicks.
Oh, fair. I was going to say Luke Schoonmaker also fell, and I think he went 4th round here.
Yeah, I think Parker Washington's still on the board here from the Commanders as well. I think that's also kind of interesting. Michael Wilson, did he go? He went top of the 4th to the Bears. I actually might go with him because that's, pretty... No, I'm going to go with Wicks. I'm going to go with... he went top of the 5th round. I'm going to go with Dontavian Wicks here.
Drinking beer or hard liquor draft night. Probably a mix of both, to be honest. I get pretty get going on draft night.
My girlfriend really loves bubbly and Grey Goose and stuff. So that's what I got in my house right now. So I'll probably be drinking maybe a couple of those, maybe have some beers. Who knows? I might not drink at all. I have no idea.
You probably will.
I probably will have a couple here.
Where did Kuntz go? Bush, go through your gripe with this draft.
Oh, dude, I have no idea how Zach Kuntz, the most athletic tight end in NFL history, doesn't get drafted in Matt Miller's draft. For reference, Dane Brugler had him going 4th round to the Bengals. I think he's going to go day 2 based on just the fact that he tested at such a high level. So for me, I have Kuntz. You guys are going to see in tomorrow's tight end rankings video how high I have Kuntz, and it's very high because the guy legitimately looked like Jimmy Graham to me at times. He's definitely not Jimmy Graham as a pure player, but he has that type of upside given how athletic he is, and he plays to that athleticism, which is not something we could have said about like Jelani Woods last year. I don't think he played quite as athletic as he tested. So yeah, Zach Kuntz not getting drafted in Matt Miller's mock draft is a gripe that I definitely have with this one. Slapping. I'll be drinking seltzers until my Patriots make a bonehead pick, then go on hard drinks. Yeah, no worries. Jimmy G or Hooker. In Dynasty, if this was the landing spot or as of just in general, I would say if this was the landing spot for Hooker, I would take Hooker. But just in general, I would take Jimmy G because I don't know if Hooker is going to go in the first round for sure. You guys should do a predict the pick challenge with the viewers for the draft. Yeah, I debated trying to like find a way that we could like vote on picks. Like if we could put like polls and people could be like, oh, I think it's, Peter Skoronsky. I think it's, Devin Witherspoon or whatever. And like we could all vote on the pick and see if we're right. I'll have to figure out if there's like a website that you can do polls and insert them into YouTube or something like that. Cause that could be really, really fun if we could do that on draft night. At the very least, me and Danny are going to be predicting picks against each other and the chat can chime in, obviously. Love or Mac Jones. I'll take Jordan Love there quite easily. Mac Jones is, doesn't sound like he's in a lot of favor with the Patriots there. Burks or Addison, I'll take Addison. As much as Burks' underlying metrics are pretty solid, he still had like what I would consider a relatively disappointing rookie season, and they were comparable as prospects. I think I had Addison graded like slightly higher than Burks coming out. So, and he's in a bad situation right now. So I'll take Addison there.
I love Dotson, but I'm taking QJ here.
I'll take Dotson.
That's really close for me though.
I've already seen Dotson do enough good things in the NFL, and as prospects, I had Dotson rated higher.
The way I would describe this is assuming QJ goes first round. If he slips to the second, I would take Dotson. That's how fine of a line we're talking here.
Oh, Mentimeter. Yes, that's the thing I was talking about. So Rob suggested that we should throw in like polls during the draft when the picks are like, who do we think this is going to be? Throw in a couple names and have people vote on it. If we're able to do that into the YouTube chat, then that would definitely be a lot of fun. We'll definitely do that.
That's dope.
We're going to try and like amp up our professionalism this year for the draft. I mean, obviously it's just going to be a bunch of guys hanging out, but we still want to I want to throw player cards on the screen when fantasy relevant players get drafted and talk about their strengths, their weaknesses, the fits, like that kind of stuff. But we will, still do some fun stuff for sure.
And you guys can let me know, let us know your thoughts on this too. But yeah, we're going to swap screens. So whenever a fantasy relevant player went, like you kind of mentioned, Corey mentioned, we would go through their player cards, strengths, weaknesses, player comps, all that fun stuff there. And for the most part, I would have on my shared screen, just going through the NFL draft. I'll go through a mock draft on PFF. And if trades happen, whatever the case may be, we can do it and kind of show exactly what's going on and in pick accordance.
Yeah, I know why you're doing that because we can't actually stream the draft, obviously, right? We'll get shut down. So we can show the board, and that would definitely be some interesting stuff just to make sure everybody's recapped on the picks and things like that. So, where would you rank Chig and McBride in this 2023 class? Probably like 7 or 8.
Bunch. Yeah, within the bunch.
Yeah, they'd probably be within the for me, I think Mayer and Kincaid are way ahead of those guys, no problem, no questions asked for me. I would still take, assuming Kuntz gets decent draft capital, I would still take him. I would still take Tucker Kraft. I would still take Sam Laporta. I would still take Darnell Washington. Those guys would probably fit in behind shortly after those guys. Because I had McBride graded as a late second rounder last year. Every name that I just said is a mid second rounder or better, with Kincaid and Mayer both being first rounders for me. So Chig, he had good metrics, but I'm still not nearly as bought in as some people are.
For sure. Dotson has much better hands than QB.
Dotson's best attribute is hands, and QJ's worst attribute is hands. So yeah.
Honestly, that was my gut reaction. But once we have the NFL draft, we see.
We also know that Dotson was a first round pick, and we don't know that about QJ
that's the variable for me, right? That's the variable. I probably would still slightly prefer Dotson at this point. Now that I think about it, but that's like two top 35-ish, top 30-ish type of dynasty wide receivers.
Yeah, and that is hella annoying because the Leafs game 5 of the playoffs is also the same day as the draft.
No, same time.
I'm going to be hearing what's up.
Same time.
Yep.
Oh my God, that is horrendous.
Well, the bright side is that it starts at 7 or 7:30. The game will be over by 9:30. So by like pick 12 to 15 in the NFL draft, the game will be over.
Yeah. You guys plan on bringing guests or just the boys? We're probably gonna have a few guests on.
Yeah, we
Maybe
might
some
reach out to some
analysts.
people.
Yeah.
I haven't reached out to anybody. If you guys want to see somebody on here, like, and keep in mind
Drop
if
them
they've
down
already
below.
announced that they're going to do a draft stream, we can't have them on.
Yeah.
But just like lower people, lower key guys in the industry, like we'll reach out to guys like Angelo, see if Mason wants to come on, guys like that, and talk about some picks. That way.
Yeah,
What's up?
Bush, you want to hear something that'll make you laugh?
What's that?
Jerry Jones said Zeke drafted too high and admitted to making a mistake.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for taking Zeke at 4th overall for taking Zeke. So
Oof.
I never thought I would see the day that he would actually like admit to making a mistake. Either way, I just found that funny. I'll be here for the 3rd year in a row. Really excited for the 23 class to find landing spots. Yeah, appreciate you for the consistent support there, Nate, a true OG. Swear Nate's been following us when we were that rinky dink, 300, 400 subscriber channel. So big shout out there. I think he might have honestly been one of the first 100. Kuntz over McBride. I personally would take McBride, but like they're in the same tier. So like you can argue. Not to mention we have hindsight that McBride went round 2. Like if Kuntz doesn't go day 2, then like obviously you can adjust. But
if Kuntz goes day 2, I'll take him easily though.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Justin Ross or Boutte? I'll take Boutte. Justin Ross looks like he's one hit away from being in a hospital, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he's got some serious like recovery to do still.
For sure. But either way, what are you up to?
I'm looking at if Tucker's numbers have come out, which is what I'm looking at right now.
Gotcha.
It looks like all he did was the weigh in, the height, the jumping 38 inches, and had 29 bench press reps. He did not run by the looks of it because he tweeted himself pro day check after the Schefter tweet, and nothing else has come out since then. So I mean, in training, he reportedly ran in the 4.3s, and I believe it. But we don't really have official numbers on Tucker.
Yeah, no facts. Sorry, I was just reading through some quotes from Cowboys camp. Overall, though, is there anything else you want to go over? Or should we wrap this up?
No, let's wrap this up. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to fire them away. But I need to grind the rest of this draft guide to get it out for you guys, ideally before the Leaf game starts tonight at 7. So I'd like to have that out
later
so you guys can see all my grades and all my player cards and that kind of stuff. And I still have to finish the player card for Luke Musgrave and then get everything organized to put up on the site. So again, if you want access to that, you can start a 2-day free trial on Flock Fantasy. Make sure you use the promo code FSE when you sign up, and you'll get access to first dibs on Dynasty decisions if you do indeed purchase a package. We are quite backed up on submissions, so we will. Yeah. I might actually. I think I told you this, Danny. If you wanted to solo run a Dynasty decisions episode,
I'll try this week. But realistically,
we might have to save them until after the draft, honestly, because we have so many of them. And
probably more beneficial for you guys, anyways, if we wait till after the draft so you see the landing spots when you ask rookie draft questions.
Yeah, but the only problem is like they submitted the questions and like they can't edit their submissions. So that's the only issue.
Well, we can say this right now. If you guys have submitted and have any edits, just feel free to resubmit and write down, like Corey has mentioned multiple times in the past, that, I submitted on this day. I just updated it.
Yeah, for sure. And we have quite a few Flock member submissions. So the free ones, unfortunately, we are not going to get to those anytime soon. We have probably 20 people that submitted.
DM'd you. J Full, honestly, at this point of the Devi draft, your guess is as good as mine. Like, I know the top end guys realistically, but like round 3 on in Devi drafts, it's literally just like looking at their production profiles, looking at their likelihood of hitting and potential draft capital they could see. But realistically, at round 3 on in a Devi draft, it's just kind of getting lucky on some decent looking profiles.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being real, I only know Raheem Sanders on your team. Like, I know Nelson from USC, the quarterback in 2026, is a highly sought-after high school prospect, but I literally know nothing about the guy. You went all 2025 and 2026 guys. The only guys that I've looked into are the 2024 guys. Yeah. So only Raheem Sanders is the one I can tell you that I think he's a great player. So do you see Pittman getting the same volume with better quality targets for the rookie quarterback compared to Ryan and Wentz? I mean, if CJ Stroud is his quarterback, he's got a better quarterback than those guys. So that's definitely an upgrade for him. So like I said, check out the site for the draft guide. Check it out. Check out the channel. If you guys, this is the first time you're checking in, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you guys tomorrow. with the rest of our rookie rankings. Tight ends coming tomorrow. I'm going to be dropping the top 5 rookie sleepers, which of course, you guys always like every year, tomorrow later in the day as well. And going to be some awesome names. And then overrated and underrated prospects will be on Wednesday. And then Thursday is the draft. Not much time left. I wish we had more time to talk some more dynasty decisions, but we're literally we just don't have any time until the draft actually happens, which is exciting because I personally am sick of seeing people make new takes on Twitter. Everything's already been said in dynasty fantasy football land. People are coming out of the woodworks with new information and new takes. This shit, can we just have the draft early April every year? Because the month of April on Dynasty Twitter is an absolute crapshoot every single season.
For sure. Last thing we'll leave off. If you guys did enjoy the stream, 40 of you still in here, like Bayou Bengal, appreciate that. He said, hit that like button, y'all. 40 people in here. I want to see at least 25 likes for the remaining people left in.
Yep, for sure. So we're going to head out here. Take it easy, fellas. Go Leafs.